Hello again, it's me, that guy with the YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing another review. As you can tell, today we are going to be reviewing the Bandai Soul of Chogokin GD98 Mechagodzilla 2, or 1975. And for those of you who are uninitiated, this is Mechagodzilla 2. This is Mechagodzilla 1993. His arm outright says Mechagodzilla 2. He is never referred to as Mechagodzilla 2 in the movie. He is only referred to as Mechagodzilla. Once more, Mechagodzilla 2, Mechagodzilla 1993. This is some stupid title made up by a bunch of idiots just trying to differentiate the movie from another movie with the same title. Now let's carry on. So before we get on to the figure, the box, it's an alright box. It fits the color scheme of Mechagodzilla and everything, but we got Soul of Chogokin right there, GD98, Mechagodzilla 1975, it's still Mechagodzilla 2, there's a thingy there, Bandai. You know, we got some pictures of the figure and stuff, Robot Brain, Mechagodzilla 2, Terror of Mechagodzilla, and Mechagodzilla's Counterattack, the licensing sticker. Not a whole lot on the top. On the side, we got flying mode. Wonderful. Here's my favorite part about the box. Just so visually pleasing. On the other side, it's all this stuff. And on the back, it's everything he can do. Notice how this box has no mention whatsoever of the Toys Dream Project Godzilla and Titanosaurus set, which came out at the same time as this, and that set advertised this figure. How rude of this figure. So for detail, as you can see, it's your standard Mechagodzilla detail. It's got all, Showa Mechagodzilla detail, that is. It's got all the angular things and panels and spiky bits and bolts and everything. It's pretty standard. It is a darker paint job than the 74 version of this, which I like. I like the paint job on this better. It just looks less plasticky and cheap. But I should say this is very inaccurate because it reuses so many parts from the 74 version. And the actual 75 Mechagodzilla 2 suit reused, I'm pretty sure, absolutely nothing from the 74 suit. And it was a completely brand new suit that they made for that movie. But for this figure, they reused parts because why not? It's Mechagodzilla 2. He's not super different from 74. It's really mostly just little things here and there. But yeah, as you can see, there's a lot of screw holes on the back. But his tail is nice. The tip is wrong. So you just compare it to the actual 75. This is the black memorial box version. Yeah, you can see the differences in his legs as well. There are a lot of differences. We're not going to get into that because that's a whole video in and of itself, and I know people have already done whole videos of that. But yeah, this guy's knee missiles, of course. What would he be without them? The detail is nice, and they did remold this whole kind of pelvis area region to be more accurate to 75 and not like 74, which I am glad. And the front half of his torso is remolded, which is kind of surprising because die cast. But yeah, as you can see, the detail is very nice. You got the bolts. There's like a little random bit of flash or like extra mold from the die cast or something. It was like that out of the box. I don't know why. He's a little bit scuffed up. I had this when I was a kid, and I absolutely cherished and loved this thing because I thought it was the coolest thing ever, and it still kind of is. It has finger missiles here, which these are actually made out of solid vinyl, which is interesting. And they are thankfully accurate to how they were in the movie. And I got off fairly lucky with mine because he doesn't have warped finger missiles. That's something you should probably watch out for if you're looking for one of these. I'll get to that at the end of the review. And we got MG2 Mechagodzilla 2. Again, this is Mechagodzilla 2. Oh, yeah. And the head sculpt. It's a 74 head sculpt. The 75. We'll just bring it in for comparison. You can see the differences along the back and everything, and just the way it looks. Also, On the roof of his mouth, there's no extra set of rockets, which he does have, and they are actually painted and detailed quite well. But he's supposed to have a second set of them on the roof of his mouth. It doesn't really bother me because you can't even see that detail in the movie at all. But yeah, detail is overall pretty nice. And finally, before we finish off detail, I should point out the die-cast content of the figure, because this is a Chogokin figure, and Chogokin means super alloy, basically meaning they have metal. The front half of his torso is die-cast, front half of his hip is die-cast, and his whole lower leg section up until about his ankle joint is die-cast, and the ball joint in there is die-cast. So you get a good amount of die-cast with this figure. He's not super weighty, though. So for articulation, his mouth can open and close, which is not a ball joint or anything like a Monster Arts, it's just hinged. The head can rotate, but I would suggest only rotating it to his left, to Mechagodzilla's left, just because if you rotate it this way it clicks, and he's got a gimmick with that. And I feel you might break the gimmick if you rotate it this way. We'll get on to the gimmick later. He's got ball jointed shoulders, which can rotate all around, 360, move up and down. All of the wonderfulness. Swivel biceps. Fuck yeah! There's a hinge in the elbow, which looks kind of weird, but you can just shift it forward thanks to a second hinge. So that's pretty clever on their part. Swivels in the hands. Not like you would need any other motion out of them. Swivel in the waist. Again, not like you would need any other motion out of them unless you want to get them to kind of hunch over like the Bandai standard movie Monsters version. Not super ratcheted, but pretty ratcheted hips. They move in and out and all that. And they move forward. Very soft ratcheted on the forward motion, but the in and out, you can feel and hear them click. There's a rotation at the upper part of the thigh, and oh yeah, nice and clicky knees that get about 2 clicks. I love this figure. Yeah, anyways, ball joints in the ankles, which move ridiculously forward and not that far backward, which can lead to some balancing issues. And these are die-cast on die-cast ball joints, so like the die-cast is rubbing up against other die-casts. This video needs a die-cast counter for how many times I say die-cast. Anyways, if the metal is rubbing against the metal, so it's a little easier for these to wear away and become loose over time. And seeing as they like to move forward, that you should probably watch out there. And there's a swivel at his tail here, and a hinge to get it down, and a ball joint. So, 2 ball joints right here. So, it's nothing special, but it's what you would expect for an articulated Mechagodzilla figure. So for accessories, starting with the first one, as you can see, he's got a flying head, which is basically part of the normal head, just with this back half removed, replaced with this part. The mouth is also supposed to open, but it's rather stiff on mine, so it doesn't want to open for some reason. As you can see, this is where that hinge in the tail comes in, because they learned their lesson from Gigan, where his tail always sticks up like that when you have him in flying mode. With Mechagodzilla, it sticks down and looks much better. He also comes with alternate hands, just like the first one, that have been molded to look like he has shot off his missiles into an evil tin, or good tin, considering he is an evil tin. And they are actually not just reuses of the 74's missile shot hands, they are completely new, which is very nice on their part. And as you can see, you can also remove his kneecap missiles. The toes are a separate piece, but you have to unscrew the feet to get those off, so those aren't removable. Yeah, sad face. And for his final 2 accessories, as you can see, he comes with the Space Titanium, which is just kind of a die-cast piece, loosely in the shape of the Space Titanium. I don't think it's supposed to have this edge. Maybe it's supposed to have a little dent, but it's not supposed to have this kind of scratch in there like that. And it's not supposed to be this shiny. and there's a kind of, if I can get this close enough to focus without it glaring up everything like it's a fucking sun or something. Yeah, as you can see, there's a texture to it, but it's only on the front side, and all the sides and the back are just completely smooth die cast. I mean, it's nice to have, but they could have done a little better on that. And as you can see, it comes with the brain, the robot brain, maybe a little over detailed. I don't think it had quite as many little gizmos and thingies on it. And I'm pretty sure the wires in the movie were red and blue and not red and green. But it's a very nice little thing to have, and there aren't a whole lot of Mechagodzilla 2s that have the robot brain. And finally, before we get on to sizing, gimmicks, because this figure does have a few little built-in gimmicks. So obviously, first you saw you can take out the kneecap missiles, but also you can open his chest laser door, which is a standard for all articulated Showa Mechagodzillas, basically. I think even some X Pluses can open this little hatch, but as you can see, it's got some detail in there, and it's rather nice. You can also take out his neck at the socket. This is a feature left over from '74. Obviously, this never happened to Mechagodzilla 2 and Terror of Mechagodzilla, but it's still a nice little thing to be able to do, and I'm glad they left the feature in. And finally, of course, the most famous feature of all that has entire videos made about it for some reason. You can fucking spin his head around until it jams. I also forgot to mention that in the box he comes with this little manual here. It's got an advertisement for the movie Monsters figures that were out at the time on the back. It's nothing grand like the little booklet that comes with the '74 figure, but it's still nice. We got some information on Mechagodzilla, Titanosaurus, and Godzilla. We got a picture of the Mechagodzilla 2 suit, and opening it up further, there's instructions. Moving on to sizing, this is where you will see this figure is absolutely huge. First off, here's the Bandai Memorial Box Godzilla 1975, which he is a good head shorter than Mechagodzilla, which this is completely inaccurate. Like, he needs to be like up to there. So yeah, Chogokin figures are usually very oversized figures, but this is really oversized. But it still works in a way, and Godzilla can hold Mechagodzilla's head. I mean, it works better with the head that isn't for flying, but you get the idea. You can cradle this head in Godzilla's arm and put this brain on there. Yeah. Next here he is with the Memorial Box Mechagodzilla 2, which isn't blending into the background for some reason. As you can see, this is a more accurate figure for sizing with, like, say, Godzilla 75. But yeah, you can just see how much shorter this guy and how much more detailed this guy is, but this thing kicks so much ass on just being a figure. It's hard to explain, but yeah. Anyways, that's not important. What's important is this guy is shorter, this one is bigger. Next, here he is with the SH Monster Arts Godzilla 1995 Rebirth version and the NECA 6-inch Godzilla 2014, because everybody has or has had this figure at some point. And as you can see, these sizings aren't very accurate. It's really just to show you what Mechagodzilla looks like next to two very common figures, because I know, like, a lot of people, or every Godzilla fan has this figure, Godzilla 2014, the 6-inch version, or at least has had this figure at some point, and this is a pretty standard common Monster Arts figure. And finally, for sizing, here he is with holy fucking ballsack! So for history of the figure and pricing, this figure was originally released in around about 2004, 2005. Never really a good thing to go off the licensing stickers. Probably, I would say, around 2005, actually, just because, well, because it came out at the same time as the Toys Dream Project set, and I'm pretty sure that came out after the Memorial Box, which both those sets had this figure in, and I think you would think that this would get reissued a year after, but yeah, anyways. And it was a retool of the 74. It still is. I don't know why I said it was. and it's still a good figure. Now, he's actually the only Godzilla related Chogokin figure from Bandai that hasn't gotten a repaint. All the others have had repaints, like Gigan, Kiru, and 74 Mechagodzilla. I forgot him too, but Mechagodzilla 2 was the only but the only Godzilla related Chogokin that didn't get a repaint. Don't know why. Would have been cool to get a black version of this. But anyways, he was around about $50 or $60 when he first came out, both 74 and 75. And nowadays he's not very hard to find. He was at one point extremely hard to find and immensely expensive, but now, since Monster Arts is the top shit now, he's gone down in price a bit, which is good. So nowadays you can find him for maybe $100 to $200. That's, yeah, he used to go for up to $500 back then. And back in those days, let me tell you something. I spent 4 years trying to find this figure, and I got him for $50 shipped from Hong Kong. And he took 3 months to get here, and it was the best fucking day ever. Because this thing kicks so much ass, and despite all of its inaccuracies, I might be a little bit blinded by the nostalgia of just absolutely loving the shit out of this thing when I was 11 years old. But I'm going to give him a 10 out of 10. A very easy 10 out of 10. Get